It's time to take a ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive with our co-hosts Alan Saunders and Zachary Smith.
Welcome into another Steelers Afternoon Drive. I'm Zachary Smith. That is Alan Saunders. Alan, how are we feeling?
Feeling good, man. It's Friday. What's not to feel good about?
Friday, Easter weekend, which I feel like just kind of snuck up on me, and being a big wrestling guy. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know that. Also, it's weird that it crosses with WrestleMania this week. So yeah, but I'm hosting. You can kind of see it right now. You see there looks like there's something right above my microphone on my camera.
Yeah.
On a little so I am hosting a Easter egg hunt today for my nieces and nephews, and that's one of them, so don't tell them, but it's right there. Anyways, so Easter kind of snuck up on me.
I feel like a bit of an Easter egg on this show has been the credentials. You guys always I always get lots of comments about them, and I haven't put any new ones up here in a while. So
look at this.
We got a bunch of new ones. We got the Pro Bowl there, I think.
I like that lanyard itself.
Yeah, a couple different colors. The Senior Bowl had a really cracked out one this year with holes in it everywhere. What was always orange because peanut butter cups.
Is there? It wasn't something you punch them out or anything, right? That's just how
it was
design
like. It was like if you have different punches, you had different access. So I was like, don't accidentally punch my card, or I'm not going to get into everywhere I want to go.
You somehow end up being the director taking over from Jim Nagy.
Yeah, Super Bowl. That's the first one of those I got. That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah. We can put that one maybe over here somewhere. I don't always put the lanyards up. Sometimes I do. I don't know. What else do I got? There's one for the real sickos. There is IU Indy. I covered that basketball game. Robert Morris was playing there during the combine. I think that was. Let's take this one down low over here. I don't even know which ones you guys can see and which ones you can't see. What else we got? There's the combine. Kind of a boring lanyard on that one. Maybe we'll ditch that. There you go. Combine.
Okay. I don't know, man. That Pro Bowl one.
The Pro Bowl one is cool. It's very cool. Yeah. This commander boys moving around. Let's see if I can. That's the one, man. Ed and I walked home from that Commanders game. It was just pouring rain. You got absolutely drenched. There we go. Like that. Oh, yeah, one more. The annual meeting. It's got a nice lanyard, too. A little blue and purple. And that was honors meetings. So there you go. No, I don't want to cover the Super Bowl. Put that one. All right.
Nice. Beautiful. Beautiful additions. Imagine if we just did that for an entire 30 minutes and it was just you making updates to
the there are this is an entire box full of unposted there's so many more. One of these days I'm moving to that wall. I keep saying that, but I need time to do that. So
that sounds like a project.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, 4 minutes into this thing, first thing that I want to bring up before we get into a bunch of questions is, I don't know if you were expecting this or how often it happens where guys, are late additions to or decide to back out from going to the NFL draft. But a name that we've talked about quite a bit is Jaxson Dart, and he is no longer attending the NFL draft. Is this usually one of those cases where maybe he's received some information where they're not as certain now that they were when he accepted that they would be a first round pick, or what potentially happened here?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to give a reason because I don't know. It could just be his mom was like, "I really want you to be home."
Yeah,
yeah. And then he was like, "Okay, mom," whatever. But certainly, feels like I thought Dart was kind of a stretch to be taken in the first round anyway. It certainly feels like it's possible that he got some intel that either he's not going to be taken, or if he is taken, it's going to be a long wait in that green room. And yeah, I can see why you wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the clips that have been shared over the years from guys that do it. I mean, I appreciate guys that, especially the ones that stick around too. I mean, like Malik Willis, for example, just a few years ago, like, man, he stuck it out and then had a smile on his face the whole time, was posting inspirational stuff on Twitter throughout the process. And just, it was really cool to see. But like, yeah, then you end up being like the meme of the weekend or something like that, potentially, if you spend a while. And I know like Will Levis, people talking about him, Geno Smith going back, obviously years. But yeah,
well, Aaron Rodgers was probably like
Aaron Rodgers
was maybe the most notable of those. Joey Porter Jr. also was same year as Levis, I believe, right?
Yeah, and he chose not to stick around.
He came back to Pittsburgh because Steelers had picked 33. Well, it was 32 that year, and I think he had a pretty good idea. He was coming to the right place. So
yeah, absolutely. Just a little interesting there.
And there was a report from Pro Football Talk. I don't think we talked about this. That they're considering expanding that to inviting players that they think are going to be drafted on all 3 days. Just invite a bunch of players, which is pretty interesting to me because it always felt like the draft is we talked about when Pittsburgh got the draft, and it's like the going to the draft is weird to me because there's like 10 players there, maybe 15, and then like the coaches and GMs aren't there. They're actually back in their facilities and their war rooms. It's just like some token member of the staff there to go run the pick in, and then you may get your Lynn Swann is announced is going to make the Steelers' 3rd round pick. Your legends and things of that nature, but like you're mostly there to watch it on TV with other people because nothing is actually happening in the city where the draft is. It seems like this is a step towards the NFL trying to make this much more a thing that happens in the city by inviting a lot more players.
Yeah. And I kind of like the idea. And I wonder, like, we're just talking about the case of Jaxson Dart. Let's say it is a case where he's backing out for reasons of not wanting to be left in the dream room if he doesn't go in the first round. If there's a bunch of guys that are going to be day 2 and 3 picks anyway, like maybe there's a sense, I don't even know the right word to use there, like comfort in knowing that like there's other guys there that aren't going to be selected on round one that are also there. I don't know. So I just feel like it's like more inclusive just all the way around, like even fringe first rounders that would feel more comfortable going.
Yeah. If that's what part of the feedback they're getting is the why guys don't want to go, it makes sense. Sure, it makes sense. And I just think it makes sense too. Like you have to have this green room facility. You have to have the setup for it. Your camera set up and all that, and then you're going to only use it 1 of the 3 days. Like, what's the point? Why not make use of it all 3 days? But I wonder, okay, so we had a question on Twitter. I had a question on Twitter asked if I'm going to the draft, and I was like, no, I don't know anybody that goes to the draft in the media because there's nothing for us to do there. Like, if you start having 100 to 150 prospects at the draft, I bet you get a lot of media to show up. Like, I think that would change things.
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious to see how it plays out if that does end up happening, and we'll see. I started laughing there a little bit because I put out for questions like shortly before we started recording, so I wanted to go back and check in on it. First one that came in was from Chris Carter of the esteemed Locked On Steelers podcast, great friend of the show. He said, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Jaxson Dart, Will Howard in a battle royale, who would win? I mean, to me, you look at the way that Jalen Milroe is built, like he is an anomaly at that position. That's my guy. In anything that's not football, he's my guy.
Yeah, but he's not strong. He's fast. He's going to be hard to catch. But in a battle royale, you kind of have to go to the action, right? Like you can't just run away.
I just think full speed collisions, like because of the speed that he is going to build up. Say they all just start in a corner and run towards each other, and there's just one big collision. I like Jalen Milroe's chances.
Okay.
I understand, like,
Will Howard has
like,
the size. He's 6'4", about 235. Yeah. I think that's the biggest of the group. I like Jaxson Dart's toughness too. Like I
agree.
I think this is tough.
I think Sanders is last here for me. I think you can make a case for the other guys.
Yeah, 100%. guy. He's definitely the high odds guy here because I don't see it there. Dart for the toughness, Howard for the size and the strength, Milroe for the speed. I don't know. I might lean Jaxson Dart. I just think
Chris had by the way, he could have gone here with because this is WrestleMania weekend, like a fatal 4-way route here. He went with a battle royale, but he could have said there's a fatal 4-way this weekend for the Intercontinental Championship. He could have presented it like that, and I would have appreciated it a little bit more. But
we'll take it. It is what it is.
Chris isn't tapped in. Anyways,
you got another great nonsense question that I know the answer to, so that's why I'm Josh Banks. Great Twitter follow, and I think he's on Blue Sky now as well. So why do they say hut in the quarterback's cadence? Hut, hut, hike, that kind of thing. I
thought he meant pizza.
Well, no one out pizzas the hut except for everyone who tries. But hut is like it's like the military formation, like 10 hut. That kind of thing. Like, you're getting set. That's you have to be still after you get. Do people not know this? Maybe people don't know this. You have to be still as a formation for 1 second before you snap the ball. You can't be moving around before the snap. So the hut is the quarterback's signal to stop moving. I'm gonna snap the ball now. Or in 1 second.
Yep. Nope. Had no clue. I mean, I know that the role that they have to be set. I didn't know in terms of huts being the reason there. Okay. All right. Hey, learn something new every day. I tell you guys all the time on the show, I learn a ton just from doing this. All right. Going back to an actual football question here. Somber says, let's say Rodgers is a no-go. What are the odds that Mason would hold the pole position over a 2nd to 4th round quarterback? Should they choose not to use pick 21 on a quarterback?
Depends on the quarterback. If it's Jalen Milroe, Mason's going to hold him off all year because that's a project. If it's Will Howard, I don't know.
That's the one I think is super interesting.
Maybe
like 50, more interesting than that. Yeah.
If it's Tyler Shook, maybe a little less than 50-50, I think. If he's healthy, which with Tyler Shook has been, that's less than 50-50, so maybe.
Yeah.
And then, like anybody else, to me, I think Howard and Shook feel like the guys they could draft that I think probably would play over Rudolph at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else, I don't know. Ewers, I don't know, man. Ewers is rough. Like I don't know that I feel good enough about the Steelers' ability to fix a quarterback.
Yeah. Now, I know that you said going back a while here, like especially if you're drafted quarterback in the mid rounds, like you don't necessarily need to get an extended look at them to then take a quarterback in 26. Like you don't need to find out if that dude is a dude. But like at the same time, while I fully agree, there is part of that I would question, like, do they want to get a look at him? So regardless of where it is that they were taking a quarterback this year, I'm wondering if they play at some point.
Well, if they don't protect the quarterback better than they did last year, they're going to get a look at all the quarterbacks, whether they want to or not. Yeah. Where was I going next? Oh, yeah. I think the thing about Shook and Howard is that they have had good enough play in college. They've just not been consistent. It's different than. Like, they've even done it for good stretches. Like, Shook was good for most of this year. Howard was good for the last 4 or 5 games, 3 or 4 games, whatever, something like that. Like, it's not like it's incumbent on, like, major structural changes to their game. You just need them to focus on the good and get rid of the bad. I can see it happening. Everybody else is like a big project that I don't see happening in the span of a few months.
And don't get me wrong, I understand obviously the concern with Tyler Shough and everything like that. But like the one thing that I will say to his benefit in terms of like a transition here is because he is older and has spent so much time in college football, he's played in pretty much like every type of offense that you could. Most guys that play college football now, it seems like it's so far removed from what they're doing at the pro level. in terms of the offense that they're playing in. So there's so much of a transition there. In Tyler Shuck's case, who's seen so many different things already at the collegiate level, there's still going to be a transition period there, I'm sure. But like, I would feel more comfortable if there was an NFL game tomorrow for him to be a starter than pretty much anybody in this class not named Cam Ward.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's not to say he's going to be the second best quarterback from this class, but in terms of, hey, if there was a game tomorrow and we needed somebody to play, I feel like he's going to be ready to play sooner than any other guy not named Cam Ward. So we'll see there. I fully agree though. Like those two that you mentioned, Howard and Shuck, are the two most interesting ones to me, because I agree about Milrow. Obviously, that's a long-term project. Anybody that we draft further down the board than Howard or Shuck, I don't think would get a look necessarily this year.
They're either a big project or you're just drafting a backup, one way or the other.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so those two are really the two for me that I would look at. This is interesting too, because this is incorporating obviously this year's draft class, but with their draft pick last year, Matt D said, where would Fatanu fall for top offensive lineman this year if he was coming out?
He'd be the best one. Yeah, I think maybe behind Will Campbell. Okay, maybe behind Will Campbell.
In like similar questions, right? Because like there's a lot of people that are like trying to box Will Campbell and saying he's going to end up being a guard because of his testing and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I would put him behind Will Campbell, but maybe not everyone would, and I think definitely ahead of everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Kelvin Banks, I think, is someone that people are talking about could be a guard as well. I just don't think his college tape is as good as Fatanu's college tape was.
Mm-hmm. I'm right there with you. I think he's one or two. Q says, realistically, do you think they go running back, safety, quarterback, defensive tackle in the first round? What order of those four would you suppose they are prioritizing? Oh, man, we got to rank all four. I mean, here's the thing that we've said about Omar time and time again, right? Is like, he's not going in with this has to be the pick at 21. What's the value that's going to be there at 21? What's the best player that's going to be there at 21 for them to take? I think if they went into the draft and said, this is what position we have to take at 21, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah, I would say to answer that question, it's probably like Shedeur Sanders first, then like D tackle second, and then I don't know what after that, but not like any D tackle, just one of those top guys.
Can you definitively? Okay, so if that's the case, though, I know we're kind of like not answering his question here probably with what he was looking for, but like, is there one that you feel like running back or safety, like where we've talked about running back? Yeah, they need a back, but does it need to be a top of the group guy if it's not there value wise? No,
I don't think
safety.
I don't think running back in the first round is even particularly plausible. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about the idea of like, in an ideal world, they have a partner to be able to trade back. Is that the
maybe in a trade back,
like
not at 21.
Henderson. Yeah, man.
Not at 21. They're not taking.
What does that board look like if they end up taking a Hampton or Henderson at 21? That's what I'm curious about.
I
don't know if I want to find out.
It's implied. Like you would need. Okay, Sanders is gone. All three D tackles are gone. Egbuka's gone. Barron's gone. But then, like, who else is left? Like, that's the other thing is, like, I think before they took a running back, they would just go off the board. Like, they would just, like, take, like, Colston Loveland's here? Fine, great. He's the top 10 pick. We'll take him. Oh, well, so what if we didn't look at him? Like, I think I'd rather do that than take a running back. Running back would be besides, like, taking a day 2 quarterback, running back would be among the worst picks they could make.
And do you say that not only because of like the positional value that we've talked about, obviously, just like in general, but also the depth of this class specifically?
Yeah, it's so deep. You're going to get a running back that is likely 85% as good as Omari and Hampton in the 4th round. Like, there's no reason to use that pick. I don't even think they're seriously considering it. Maybe in a trade back.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I've thought about. Noah said, "Hey, fan of the show, listen and watch Afternoon Drive nightly with Okay, with both of you and Alan taking Will Howard in the mock drafts. Wanted to ask question: Will Howard's best play came during the playoff run, like you guys mentioned, but do you think any of that could possibly be to the team being able to have longer practices, more time to game plan, film study during the playoff stretch that would align more with an NFL schedule and possibly being a reason to think that play can continue and he's just an ascending player? Feel like this is a stretch, but wanted to know what your thought was."
I heard that Ohio State did some stuff with his footwork that sort of unlocked some things. So I think that's probably
You mean like
answer.
in season or before the
Yeah,
season?
like in
Or,
season. And
okay.
of course, that was his one season there, transferred from Kansas State. So
Yeah.
it takes time, I didn't think he looked good at all at the beginning of the year, but I think he looked more comfortable in the offense, and it seemed like those changes they made really started to stick there by the end of the year. I don't know that I would put a whole lot more into that. It could have just been a random fluke too, just you need it's good that he showed it, but it doesn't mean anything unless he can do it more consistently.
Yeah, I wanted to ask your opinion on how you would compare him kind of within that same, like what he did in that college football playoff and the conversation surrounding him as opposed to like a Matthew Golden, right? Who like at the same time was probably doing what amongst the receivers, what Will Howard was doing amongst the quarterbacks, putting his best stuff on film. And that was really like the best production they had.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the other thing that's hard about Will Howard is how good that team is too. And it's like throwing Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, hand off to Quinshawn and Travion. It's like I could do most of that. And so I don't know. I think there's reasons to feel good about the idea of drafting Will Howard, but there's also good reasons why he's a 4th round pick.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's not necessarily saying he can't, right? But it's like just a question mark.
Yeah,
more than anything else. Like it's not like you can definitively say he's not good enough. It's just, is he? Like, so it's more of just a question than definitively saying that he's not. But yeah, I don't know. It's super interesting to me. He's one of the more intriguing guys within that group for sure. Jalen Warren's Stan accounts DM both of us with a question today, and this is a bit longer, so stay with me here for a second. Hey guys, daily listener to the Morning Rush and Afternoon Drive. There we go. Got a question for you. What is the skill gap between Shedeur and the top guys and the defensive tackle that could be available compared to the top defensive tackle in the class? Want to know if the DT available to us is closer to Mason Graham than Shedeur is to Cam Ward, and how close the next tier of QBs are to Shedeur in your mind, the Shucks, Milrose, and others. Same question for the defensive tackle. How close do you think the next tier defensive tackles are? The guys that would be available this year is at 21, which I assume will be the Harmons, Grants, Nolans of the world. Basically asking if it would be better to go 1st round QB, mid-round D tackle, or 1st round D tackle, mid-round QB.
There's a cliff after Shedeur Sanders. That's the big gap. I don't think there's a big gap anywhere else. Like the gap between Ward and Sanders is real, but I don't think it's like insane. I don't think the gap between Graham and Grant to me is honestly not that big. Maybe
I will go as far as saying I know there's teams that don't have Graham as the number 1 defensive tackle.
I know there are people that I was talking up Kenneth Grant, and they weren't sure which of the Michigan defensive tackles I was talking about at first. Like they're closer than people think. And I don't think there's a big gap between Derek Harmon and Tyleik Williams and Darius Alexander. I don't think there's a big gap there. Nor do I think there's a big gap between those guys and Alfred Collins and TJ Sanders and Shamar Turner.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty well positioned. To me, the big gap is after Shedeur Sanders. That's the place where there's a gap. Shedeur Sanders is more likely than not to be an above average starting quarterback in the NFL. And I don't think there's anyone else you can say that about in this class. And that's an important major distinction when you're talking about a prospect. I think you have above average starting defensive tackles in the 3rd round, probably. Jordan Phillips, Joshua Farmer. I think they'll be above average starting defensive tackles. There are 2 guys that I think are above average starting quarterbacks, and that's it. And so I think the big gap is after Sanders.
And not to obviously take away from anything that you said, but just add to it, especially like just looking to specifically defensive tackle stuff. 'Cause I get like there's quarterbacks have traits, they don't have traits. You're identifying what their strengths are, how can you work around and stuff like that. But like you're not talking so much at quarterbacks when you look at like body types and trying to fit them in where it makes sense, like scheme fits as much as with like defensive tackles. There's so many different, like, what are you looking for at your defensive tackle spots? Like that's the big thing to me when evaluating not only this class, but every defensive tackle, obviously, is like, we just talked about when we were doing our mock drafts, right? I picked Kenneth Grant and Jamari Caldwell, and it was like, well, kind of like, how do you fit both those guys in with what's currently on the roster and stuff like that? But I just wanted to add that context as well. When it comes to defensive tackles, more so than quarterbacks, you got to look at like the body types too.
And I think the quarterback is just so scarce also that like, it doesn't matter. Like if you get a good quarterback, it doesn't matter if he fits your offense or not. Go make your offense fit the player. Like,
yeah, sure.
Like you're not likely to get another good quarterback.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Oh, the other part of this, he threw this in after in a separate message was, do you think that they would take Shedeur Sanders if he just fell to 21? Like not trade up, just he's there at 21.
Yes, I do.
So you think that's best case scenario for the Steelers, the way they view it on draft night, is he's there at 21?
I mean, best case scenario is, Travis Hunter's there. Cam Ward.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Somewhat
realistic outcome.
I have a hard time envisioning a board where Shedeur Sanders is on it at 21 and he's not the best player available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. We got some more stuff that's coming from Twitter as we've been recording here. Michael said, list a player you would trade up for, even if it's a slight trade up. List a player or player, if they're on the board at 21, you absolutely would not move back under any circumstances and run the card to the podium.
There's nobody that I wouldn't trade back under any circumstances. I would listen on everyone, even Sanders. Except for maybe like edge case, like Genty. Yeah, like I'm gonna run to the podium there. Who would I trade up for? Almost nobody. They have the second smallest accumulation of draft capital. They can't be trading up. I don't think I would trade up for anyone. Unless it's like, again, like Travis Hunter's there at 10. Oh, all right, yeah, sure. But like,
he said plausible.
Of the things that are even plausible, there's no one I would trade up for.
And when they traded up for Broderick, they moved from 17 to 14. All they gave up was like a 4th round pick. They ended up trading back and getting basically the same pick back. So I'm trying to think of like a scenario where it would be like that, where they're only moving up like 3 spots and, nobody else really looking to move up. So maybe the price isn't as much as you would think. And it's similar to that. They'd have to know that they were going to trade back as well. Because like you're saying, they don't have the capital to like part with picks and not also get a pick back later on. But I don't know who the player is. Like, I think it's feasible to do, but
and like the teams that are right ahead of them don't really have. Denver's not taking a quarterback. Denver's not taking a defensive tackle. Mm-hmm. So like what are you like? Who is the player that you're worried about losing out on? I don't know.
Well, it would probably be Shedeur, right? Like feeling like not necessarily the teams that are in front of you right then, but thinking somebody else could trade up. I don't know.
I wouldn't, because like the first team that I would say like you could legitimately like you would have to like if Shedeur's falling and you really want him, you probably should trade ahead of Seattle, get to like pick 17, but I wouldn't do it.
Which is the Bengals. So, it'd be interesting with the Bengals trade with the Steelers.
Now the Bengals are going to take a defensive lineman, probably. That's probably where the second defensive lineman goes off the board there. Been working on that.
And then a name that I wanted to bring up real quick just to see like your thought on him. And I fully expect that he'll be gone well before this, but there are instances where they've talked about a slide happening for him as Will Johnson.
Will Johnson, I would not trade up for, but I mean, he's actually like if just somehow Will Johnson and Shedeur are on the board at 21, take Will Johnson. Like come on, like that's not happening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I don't see it. I think he could go early. Like, I don't think this is going to happen. I think he could go as early as 5, but like San Fran would make a ton of sense after losing Ward at 11. Like that's a popular spot that I've seen him go to. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. But good stuff, Alan. As always, Easter weekend. Happy Easter to everybody out there, including yourself, Alan. But until we come back on Monday, tell the people they can find you.
At Saunders_PGH on X, Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky. PGH Steelers Now, the site's account, SteelersNow.com. Go there and read the words so I can get paid. Sign up for SN Plus. We've got more new subscribers to SN Plus that have just been rolling in lately. Let's see if I can.
Telling them they were going to get a shout out on here, I think is honestly.
We got, why don't I have the usernames? We got Fax Mob and we got Kane JC.
Fax Mob.
So there you go.
There we go. All right, shout out to Fax Mob and Kane JC. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you were here, leave us a 5-star if you can subscribe. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from. And then follow me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH, for Alan Saunders and myself. Thanks for jumping in to take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.